All right, we're returning to the Dvar Malchut. This is a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave in 1992. And in it, he's explaining the inseparable connection between the world, the Jews, and the Torah. Okay, now we have to remember the Torah was given to the Jews, right? So here we have the Torah and the Jews. We see are very, I'd say, that clearly demonstrated by the Torah. We have the book, the Torah. We're reading the Torah. That's what we're discussing now is Torah. And the Jews, the Torah was given by God to the Jews. But interestingly enough, how does the Torah begin? It begins with the creation of the world. It begins with the creation of the world. Now, the world is not a religious topic. The world is the world. It's a mundane world. And there's a lot of people, even religious Jews, that they say that God created the world. That's what it's coming to tell us, that God created the world. He created the world. The world was the God exists, and He created the world. So the Rebbe says, no. It's coming to tell us something much more than that. It's coming to tell us that God creates the world. The existence of the world depends on God. Right? So, okay, you can accept that. God created the world. But there's a lot of people that have bad urges and character traits. God created those also. People want to murder, kill, destroy, the rape. There's all these LGBTQ and this natural desires that people have, right? And thievery, and every other day they catch somebody embezzling money or stealing something. Thievery, and like it was before the flood. The world is full of Hamas. It says called this destruction and stealing. This in the Torah it's called Hamas. That's the Torah name for it. Here you see the world is filled with Hamas. Everybody in the world is praising the Hamas. They're freedom fighters. They're fighting. So there's bad things. God also creates those things. So yeah, God creates everything, and He creates it all the time. So that's it. Everybody can just justify whatever they want and say that's what God created. Right? This is wrong. That's not right. The fact of the matter is that the creation of the world is the fact that God is creating the world all the time. Where is this revealed? In the Torah. Who is it revealed to? To the Jews. So the world is not alone with God. The world, the Jews, and the Torah, that's alone with God. It's one unit. The world, the Jews, and the Torah. And they're all being created constantly by God. But it's just that the Jews and the Torah, they're a little bit deeper. The connection to God. More intimate. Do you want to call it genuine? The Torah only talks about God. The Jews are supposed to be doing the same. They're supposed to be examples that God exists and God cares about details. God likes the world. He says that's what. Now we can explain why Rashi, the explainer of the Torah, the main commentator of the Torah, the main commentator of the Torah, and the Torah, he explains the word Bereshit, the first word of the Torah. And he explains it, first of all, by saying that the word Bereshit hints at the Jewish people and the Torah. Both of them are called Reshit. And also, it talks about God creating the world. So somehow or other, the simple meaning which that's what this Rashi, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, he comes to explain the simple meaning. That's second. That's number two. And the homiletic meaning, which usually Rashi doesn't bring in, he just brings in the simple meaning, that he puts first. Because we have to remember constantly that the reason that God created the world was that the Jews should fix it up and make it run properly by means of the Torah. According to this, now we can understand what the rabbis say in Bereshit, that the Torah was created for the sake of the world, that the world was created bishvil, for the sake of, 1 minute, excuse me. Yeah. For the sake of the Torah, which is called Reshit, and for the sake of the Jews that are called Reshit. Ikar Chidush, the main novelty in this, the big news in this, that the world was created for the Torah, is Loshi Torah v'Yisrael, not the Torah and the Jewish people. They are Reshit, they are before the world on their own, Lamaila, totally above the world. Ela but Shagam kafi she'em nimtzeim, as they are in the world, ad leguf achomri, to the physical world, of physical body of a Jew, they reveal that they are the first of the creation. They're the beginning of the creation. Don't say the Jews are just, they're up in heaven, and the Jews are like dangling this Torah, like they used to have these comedies. I remember when I was a kid on television, Argane comedies. Remember that? It was very good. And they used to have these little kids. They had a means of transportation. They had this big wagon, and they had an old goat in front of the wagon and a long stick, and they had put a carrot at the end of the stick. They dangled the carrot in front of the goat, and the goat would pull the wagon, right? Pull the wagon, and that would make it. Don't say that the Jews are just up in heaven and they've got the Torah and they're dangling this Torah, and they're dangling whether it was the pleasures of the upper worlds in front of the whole world, and saying, you want to get into heaven? It is through us, it is through the Jewish. That's not so. That's not the purpose of the Jewish people. The Jewish people are not above the world. The Torah is not above the world. The purpose of Judaism is not to get out of the world. It's not to what's going to happen after you die. The purpose of Judaism is what's going to happen after you're born. Don't think that the Jews are outside of the world. The essence of the Jews are, although it says that they were before the world, the thought of the Jews was, and the thought of the Torah was before the world. But the point is not to show how high the Jews are and how spiritual and pure they are. The purpose is to show how high, pure, and spiritual the world is supposed to be and can be by means of the Jews. God put the Jews in the world to fix the world up. That the world should be perfect. This connects. This is the way we can make the connection between the two explanations that Rashi brings in Bereshit. That Bereshit means the beginning of creation, and Bereshit means the two beginnings, Torah and the Jewish people. They're also called Reshit, and they're above the creation. That this is because it's talking about Torah and the Jewish people, although they are above the creation, but it becomes part of the creation. The Jews and the Torah become part of the creation. The Jews and the Torah become part of the creation. Reshit Lamaya, I'm sorry. The Jewish people and the Torah don't think that they're here to bring people into the world to come, that this is the secret key in order to reach heaven after you die. That is totally not the purpose of the Jewish people. The purpose of the Jewish people is to improve this physical world, to make this physical world holy through the Torah. So the Torah and the Jews, therefore, are part of the world. That's what the Torah is coming to tell us with the word Bereshit. Heyot v'Torah, since the Torah and the Jewish people were made a part of the world. Bereshit bor Elokim et hashamayim v'et ha'oretz, the world, which is simple meaning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Ad until shaguf The physical bodies of the Jews, they seem, they appear, and they're exactly similar to that of the non-Jews. If it wasn't for the fact that God chose the Jews. So that God chose the Jews, it doesn't come out in any sort of a physical revealed way. The Jews look exactly like everybody else. But the fact that God chose the Jews means that he put his power of free choice, God put his godliness, his essence of godliness into the world. That's the point. Not to remove the Jews from the world, but to instill the godliness which is in God's choice into the world. The Jews are part of the world. The Dargazu, in this itself, Nidgala, that was revealed in the whole world that God is the beginning of the world, and the Jews are the beginning of the world, like the simple meaning. So if so, the Jews, therefore, the purpose of the Jews is not like a religious purpose. That's why some people say Judaism is not a religion. That's not so. Judaism certainly is a religion. But it's called the true religion, dat emet. Why? Because the purpose of religion is not to take you out of the world. All of those religions that promise that the reason, if you adhere to what we say, you're going to go to heaven, that's a mistake. It's wrong. That's not that it could. I mean, Judaism says that yes, if you do what you're supposed to do, you're going to go to heaven. Yes, but that's a side thing. It's like the gold watch you get after you retire. The main thing is not to retire. The main thing is forget about the watch. The main thing is to be working in the world and to fix up the world and make the world holy, to make the world holy according to the Torah. Right? There's movements in the world, tikkun olam, to fix up the world. This is correct, but it has to be done according to the Torah, and it can only really be done by the Jews. That's why God put the Jews and the Torah as an integral, necessary part of the world, vital part of the world, that they're here in order to put the true meaning in the world. And really, what's the idea of Mashiach? What's Mashiach going to do? Mashiach will essentially just make the world work properly. Maimonides brings that there won't be any difference between Mashiach, the days of the Mashiach, and now, except that people won't be slaves to nature. Shibud Malchut, he calls it. People won't be slaves to their nature. And eventually we'll get to the point that people won't have negative natures anymore. People won't have a desire for do anything in order to get pleasure, in order that they won't have desire to destroy any more addictions or aggression. There won't be any more depression in the world, sadness and frustration. That's the main thing Mashiach will do. They'll just give us a different way of looking at the world by revealing our soul, the godliness in the world, something like it was in Noah's Ark. Even the animals were quiet and they got along with one another and they didn't kill each other, which was to the benefit of everybody. Why? Because they felt that they were creations. How Noah accomplished this, I don't know, but it was that's what happened in the Ark. But this brings the world to completion. This shows the true intention of the world. Shekol Bria, that the whole creation of the world, the heavens and the earth, is in order just to reveal the Maila of Bechira, the fact that God chose the Jewish people and the Torah to show that there is a God and he cares about the world and that God wants to be revealed in the world. And for this, to this end, God chose the Jewish people. But the choice that God made, that he chose the Jewish people, is not depending on if they do the job or not. God chose the Jewish people unconditionally. And this comes to show that God chose the world also unconditionally. God's not going to destroy the world anymore. But ideally, things have to work good, right? Like Abraham, God's told Abraham to kill his son. If Abraham would have killed his son, it could have been that he would have lost going to heaven, lost everything. Abraham said, I don't care. I want to do what God wants. I'm interested in doing what God wants. Until Shaturgash Ba'olam, You could feel in the world, Malat the Torah, the world will feel how precious the Torah is and how precious the Jews are, that they are rashis, that they are God's representative, to make the world a healthy place. The Sharachel Kiabriya, to fix up the whole rest of the world. We can attach this also with the end of Parshat Breshit. What's in the end of Parshat Breshit? What does it say? If you skip to the end of it, it says, it talks about the generations of the world, who was born, who died. And right in the end, it says, there was born one person, and his name was NOACH. That's how the portion of the Torah called Breshit, right? Last week, what we read last week, it ends up with Noach. Noach matzah chen b'einei Hashem. Noah found grace and pleasure in the eyes of God. Matzah chen, by the word chen, is the same letters as Noach, right? Noach. B'einei Hashem harizeh l'mayla mikol inyan b'shel tam. God liked Noach. What do you mean he liked him? Why did he like him? It's not that just that Noah did what God wanted and God liked them. That would have been, saw Noah was good. Like the world, he says, was good. Chen is a whole new word. Chen means that he found deep pleasure in the eyes of God. Motzah chen means he clicked something off. It says, another example is this, it says by Esther, in the story of Purim, it says the story of Esther that she found chen in the eyes of Achashverosh. Matzah chen beinav. Explains in the Gemara that really Esther was ugly. She was even greenish in color. But matzah chen, the king said, oh, he brought all the beautiful women in Persia were brought in front of King Achashverosh because he killed his wife, right? According to the story. All these beautiful, fantastically just stunning women were brought in front of it. And maybe all of a sudden he brings Esther in front of him. She's not good looking at all. And not only she had fasted for 3 days, so she smelled bad and she didn't look good. She wasn't plump and whatever they like over there. But she was green. And he came in front of us and says, oh, this is a green girl. This is what I want. That's a girl. This is how there it is. Everybody says, what in the world? The king is mamish out of his mind. Anybody does, oh, we agree with you, Your Majesty. Yes, you really found a real diamond over here, huh? The fact of the matter is that Esther was ugly, but she matzah chen. This is exactly what the same thing was with Noah. True, Noah was a special person, 100% he was, but that he found chen in the eyes of God, this is like, it clicked something special. Something like how God chose the Jews. It didn't make any sense. Al pia yadua shezechiras Noach, that when God remembered Noah, Gamed Noach ba'ava zacharta. This is one of the sentences that we say in our prayers in Rosh Hashanah. God should remember us like he remembered Noah. Is mitzad etzem milas neshamas Israel. The same thing is that we want God to remember us. Why? Not because of what we did. Exactly the opposite. If God remembers what we did, then we're going to be in trouble. God should remember us like he remembered Noah. What did he remember Noah? He liked Noah. The same thing. God, you liked the Jews. You chose the Jews. You chose Noah. The same thing. It doesn't make any sense. Yesh lomar that this is connected to Bereshit. That's the whole idea of Noah at the end of the Parsha is connected to Bereshit. What does it mean, Bereshit? Why did God make the world? You know why God made the world? He wanted to. Just Rosa, it doesn't make any sense. God wanted to. Why is he creating the world right now, every single second? Same reason. Doesn't make any sense. And that is revealed in the Jewish people. God chose the Jewish people to fix up the world. Why did he choose them? Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make it. Same thing with Noah. God chose Noah. He loved Noah. Loved Noah. Went crazy for Noah. Right? Why? Can't explain it. The same reason that Achashverosh suddenly liked Esther. It just touched something off in the essence of God. And that's what it says, that God created the world for the sake of the Jews, the Jews are called first. He created the world for the Jews to fix up, to perfect. Kach also, this is also revealed in the world. Noach, because Noah found chen, this deep pleasure in God, in God's eyes, as Itzilu, God saved him from the flood. Until Shezeh Gam Mevi, Elah told us Noach that he brought Noach, this week's Torah portion. These are the generations of Noach. Noach, it says twice. Elah told us Noach, Ish Tzaddik. These are the generations of Noah. Noah brought Neichel Elyonim. He brought pleasure to God, and Neichel Tachtonim, and pleasure to the world. Shegam B'Tachtonim, that even in this physical world, Gashmis Rechumras, the physical, the material, the physical, the grossness of the world, Nasa became Neichel, also became pleasing to God. So we see that this world is an amazing miracle, but it's even more than a miracle. This world somehow or other gives God some sort of a deep pleasure and satisfaction that's unexplainable. I mean, God is unexplainable itself, and how we can give God pleasure is also unexplainable. But the whole thing comes from the ideal that God has, that he wants this world to be a perfect place. That's what Mashiach is going to do. Mashiach will perfect the world. He'll just reveal in the world all of its potential. He'll take away all the bad things. Now we can understand also the connection with Rashi, with Bereshis. The Torah didn't have to begin with this Bereshis, the whole story. All that Rashi says, the Torah was given to the Jewish people for commandments, to tell them what to do. And the whole entire book of Genesis hasn't got any commandments in it. No commandments. That when we circumcise our children, Jews, is not because Abraham circumcised. There's a commandment, especially commandment. Yom Shmini Yom Basar. So it's a commandment in Parshas Tazria later on. The commandments that are in the Bereshit, those are those are not the commandments. The Jews don't do any of the commandments because they were commanded in Bereshit. The commandments that they do is only because of what it says when God was taking them out of Egypt. The first commandment all the Jewish people got was right before God took them out of Egypt, as he told them, sanctify the months. Look up in the sky. As soon as you see the new moon, the sliver of the new moon, declare that it's the first month. You have to go to how you do it. It's a lot of laws involved, but you have to have a judicial court, a special court, and that court decides. But the people have to come in and testify. Nevertheless, it's on the Jewish people to decide when the month begins. That's the first commandment. If so, why did God waste so much paper and words on the whole book of Genesis? Why did God start the Torah, give the Torah from Bereshit, from the whole book of Genesis? Because of power, the power of God's handiwork, he told to his people, that they should receive a portion of the non-Jews have in the world. Right? The non-Jews were already inhabiting the world 2,000 years before God promised to Abraham. Right? 2,000 years, God promised to Abraham, I'm going to give you the land of Israel. The non-Jews had been living there 2,000 years already. And when the Jews left Egypt, that was like 2,500 years after the world was created. And still there were no Jews living in Israel. God promised it to Abram, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, he promised it. But there was no Jews living there. When Moses came after 40 years in the desert, the Jews came and they conquered the land of Israel. They conquered the land of Israel. They took it over. Who gave them the right to take it over? It says God. God gave them, okay, but the non-Jews can say, hey, good, God is also creating us. God created, even more, God created us and he gave us this land. Here we're living here already 2,500 years. Rashi continues, that's why the Torah begins with the creation of the world. She'im, that if Yomru say, Umus Olam, the non-Jews, the Gentiles, Yisrael, to the Jewish people, listim atem, you are thieves. Shekavashtem artzos shivas amim, you conquered the land which belonged to the seven nations when Joshua came into the world. He came into the land of Israel. As he conquered, he fought up battles and he conquered, killed a lot of people. And they say, you Jewish people, you have no right to the land of Israel. Even from the time of Joshua, you got no right. You're conquerors. The Jewish people say, the fact of the matter is that the land does not belong to you. And even more, the land doesn't belong to us either. The land, the whole world belongs to God. Who bara, he's creating it. And he can give it to whoever he wants. God's will, he gave it to you. He'll take it from you and he'll give it to us. When God told Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob 2,000 years after the world was created, the land of Israel belongs to you. So Jacob said, listen, they're not going to listen to me. These people they're not squatters. Right? Nowadays in America, they got this big problem that if there's squatters in your home, you can't get rid of them. It's very difficult. And especially if you rent the house out to somebody, you can't get rid of a person that's living in it. It's very difficult to get rid of a person. In Israel, it's the same thing. You can't get rid of a person. That's if the person is a squatter or if he's a renter. But what if the person bought the land? It belongs to him. He's been working on the land for 2,000 years. It belongs to him. So how are we going to get Abraham, Isaac, Jacob? They said, why give us the land of Israel? Give us some other place where nobody cares. Give us Canada or something. It's isolated. There's no one's going to, there's a few Indians over there. We can get along with them. It's no problem. We don't have to go in there and kill everybody. For what? What's the purpose? And God said, listen, the world belongs to me. You do what I say. Right? You do what I say. The whole world belongs to me. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't belong to the Jews. It doesn't belong to the Gentiles. It belongs only to me. I'm giving it to you. The land belongs to you. That's all. It doesn't really belong to you. It belongs to me, but I'm letting you live there. I like you. How do you know the world belongs to God? Because it says that's why God gave the whole entire book of Genesis just to tell them that there's one portion of the world, which is Israel, that belongs to us. And from that portion, which is Israel, we're going to show that the whole entire world belongs to God. The novelty in this is Losha Torah, not that the Jewish people and the Torah, they are above the world, like they're found in the level of the commandments of the Torah, which the first commandment of the Torah that God gave. Oh, that's above the world. That was given only to the Jews. But the point of the Torah beginning with Bereshit is to show that the Jewish people and the Torah are found in this physical world, this mundane, crass world, yachad together with the non-Jews. She'et kulam bara Elokim, that God created all of them, and he creates all of them exactly equal in their physicality. The whole world, everything physical belongs to God equally. The same God that creates the Jews creates the non-Jews. The yesh makom l'tana, a person can say, the non-Jews can say, like they are saying today, listim atem, you are thieves, shekavashtam artzos shiva samim, that you conquered the nation of the seven. Back then, Joshua, he conquered the nation that belonged to seven different kingships. V'yosem nachlas goyim, the world was the portion of the non-Jews, that God gave it to them. That's what it says. God gave it to the non-Jews. Sham nitgala, they're revealed sha'ata b'chartanu mikol amim, because they're the land of Israel. Specifically, God gave it to the non-Jews. And when Joshua came, he showed that God chose the Jews. Koach ma'aseh v'gid lamo, the power of God's handiwork. He told to his Jewish people that the Jewish people, they received the portion of the non-Jews. It is the non-Jews portion, but God gave it to us. Just like God chose the Jewish people. And why did he choose the Jewish people? For absolutely no reason. He just chose them. Hu gam bachar, God also chose the Retzono Natal Bahem. That's what God decided. L'ses as Eretz Israel to give them the land of Israel. Eretz and Nivcher, the chosen land. Mibein Artzos, from all the nations, he gave them to La'amo HaNivchar, to his chosen people. Ula Hosif, and to add on that in this, that God gave it to us, the land of Israel, the physical land of Israel. This comes to be expressed, begilui, in a revealed way, in the Gashmi Chumri, the chirus of the choice of God in the Jews, gam kafishem nimtzim b'chumris olam, how they are in the physical world. So through the land of Israel will be first of all shown to the world that God is creating it, and that God has a will, and that God chose the Jews, that the Jewish people are chosen to reveal God's goodness and love in the world, or in simple language, to tell the non-Jews that God is creating them, and he's creating them from love. But that they have an obligation to go according to the Torah. The Torah, we're talking about the non-Jews, the 7 NOACH commandments: not to steal, not to kill, not to worship idols, not to blaspheme, not to be licentious, no LGBTQ. We can also attach this, what it says in the continuation of the parsha. After Parshas Bereshit and Noach, we come to Lech Lecha. That's going to be in next week. Lech Lecha. Lech Lecha is talking the story about Abraham. Shabom Asupar, there talks about how God told Abraham, his name was not changed yet, Avram, to Lech Lecha. At the end of the Torah portion, tells Abraham to circumcise himself, and then he changes his name. To the land I will show you. Even though that Abraham, Avram, was found in the physical world, Artzacha, in the land, and he was born a human being, and he had a father, the house of his father, but nevertheless, Abraham had to go out from there. The pared to separate the Eretz, to the land that I show you. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Noten Lo, gave him afterwards, promised Abraham the land of Israel, Shiva to our Artzot. And in fact, God promised Abraham the land of not just the 7 kings, that's what we have till this day, but he promised him the land of 10 kings, the Keni and the Kenizi and the Kadmoni, which one of them is Edom, by the way. Keni, Kenachlet Olam, Avur B'nai Yisrael, Ba'al Yedei, by means of this, Ereka. God says, I will show you the inner meaning. What does it mean? That God said, I will show you, I will show the world who you are. I will show the world who your essence is. That by means of this, that by means of Abraham, God telling Abraham to leave his natural identity, he revealed HaKadosh Baruch Hu al yedei bechirato Yisrael, by means of the choice of God to the Jews, et metziuto and mitit of Avram, who Abraham was, and of every single Jew to the world, what the Jews really are. So here, that's why it says the Jews are the chosen people. We're chosen to show the world that God exists, that God cares, that God is good, that God gave the Torah, and that the Torah are the instruction manual for the whole entire world. But first of all, the non-Jews have to feel that God exists, and the world does not belong to us, to anybody. The world belongs to God, and only to God. We're living in God's world. We're not living in our world. And even though it seems we can do whatever we want to, right? That's what Genghis Khan and Achashverosh and the Alexander the Great and all the Romans and all these people that thought they could conquer the world. That's what they thought. But in the end, they were wrong. It says that's one of the reasons why the Jews, God promised to Jacob that your children will be like the dirt on the earth. The dirt on the earth, the simple meaning is that there will be like the grains of soil. You won't be able to count them. But another explanation means just like the dirt, everybody walks on it. In the end, the dirt covers over everybody. Everyone that tried to trample over the Jews, in the end, the Jews cover them over. But others that don't try to trample the Jews are the foundation of the world. They show the world that there's God. That's the way it's supposed to be. But the Mashiach will get the Jews together. That's the big problem. But the whole thing revolves around the land of Israel, the physical land of Israel, that's where God gave the Torah, the physical Torah, and the physical Jews in the physical world. So the land of Israel will show that the world, Breshit, belongs to God, and that it has to be conducted according to the Torah, and will be taught this lesson by means of the Jews. That's the whole purpose of the word Breshit. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's see if we can do the Yom Yom. 1 minute. There we go. Stop recording. No, I got it. Didn't hit it. There we go. For some reason, this icon does not work. See, I stopped the recording, but it doesn't. I have to go over here. All right, stop the share. 1 minute. Here it goes.